Okay, so for everybody at home, we've got a bolster, we've got 2 blocks, we've got a blanket, and we've got a dowel. If you don't have a dowel, grab your broomstick and just detach your broom. We're going to start on a bit of a wedge. We take 1 block on medium height, 1 block on low height. We're going to create a ramp, like so. And then we're going to put our bolster underneath our pelvis so it's nice and cushy. And then laying over our bolster, we want to make sure that we're nice and straight. Arms out beside us, palms facing up. Have your stick nice and handy. You're just kind of pushing your elbows down into the floor, pushing into your forearms. Think about lifting the skin of your armpits up towards the sky as you think about your shoulders melting down over the bolster. Let your knees touch, and we're going to heel toe the feet apart. We're going to pigeon toe slightly so that the baby toe edge of the foot is straight. Then we're going to take our stick, we're going to place it on our belly. We're going to let our hands rest on our stick. And then as we inhale, our belly is going to fill up like a balloon, and our belly is going to lift our stick. And then as we exhale, our belly is going to sink, and our stick is going to kind of fall down a little bit. So as we inhale, the belly is going to lift and broaden, the stick will rise. And then as we exhale, we're going to feel that stick sinking. We're going to pull our belly away from the stick and fully exhale. And so in the practice of yoga, the idea is to breathe in and out through the nose, ideally. You're going to feel that gentle breeze of breath on the inside of your nostrils. You're going to think about expanding your nostrils, making them a little bit bigger for that gentle breeze of breath. And then once you find that breath moving in and out of your nostrils, expanding and contracting your belly, you're going to use your mind to really slow down your breath, making it as smooth and as slow as you possibly can, so that one day you barely feel the breeze of breath in the inside of your nostrils, like a really, really calm day at the beach. You can barely feel the air moving, but you're going to be able to feel the breath moving in your belly with the rising and falling of those waves of breath. Let's just take 5 more breaths here. Keeping in mind that moon practices are a little bit more mellow. It's kind of like scheduling, going easy on yourself. We should not only go easy on ourselves in the yoga practice, but also in life. It's a time of reflection, just kind of looking back at what you've been up to. We generally try and make promises to ourselves in this practice, and it's a time to look back and just check in on if we're keeping those promises. Those could be philosophical promises, emotional promises, life goals, or it could be just the habit stacking that we're working on this year. Am I still squatting, the habit that I stacked in January? Am I making an effort to integrate the new habit of some type of hot, cold therapy? And if not, why not? Have I bit off too much expectation for myself? Maybe my promise needs to be a little bit more mellow, easier, because if you manage to keep an easy promise, it makes harder promises easier to keep. There's a chemical change in our brain every time that we make a promise to ourselves and we keep it, that makes it easier to keep promises to ourselves. So we're going to pull our belly away from that stick, and this is Uddiyana Bandha Samana Vayu. So it's like you take your belly and you pull it down towards your low back, and then you try and slide it up. Like you're going to try and slide that abdomen in and tuck it in underneath your front rib cage. so that when we continue to breathe into our belly, the breath isn't going to go up and down into the stick, but it's going to go down into the floor when we inhale, down into the pelvic floor, out into the hips when we inhale, and then when we exhale, it's going to kind of almost lift up away from the floor. It helps me to visualize that my lower body is like a sponge, and I'm just going to kind of squeeze the top of the sponge, and I'm going to allow the breath to spill into the back of the sponge, so that when I inhale, my sacrum, my tailbone, my hips fill. I'm going to squeeze the front body, pulling it away from the stick, and then when I exhale, that space, like a sponge, is going to contract, pushing out that stale air, which would kind of be like water in a sponge. Be patient. Breathing into your back body is not something you've probably done since you laid in a crib, unless you do a lot of breath practice. So if you're new to the breath practice, don't even worry about it. Just breathe into your belly. Just breathe. I promise with time and patience, everything will start to make sense. So reflecting again on this past month, these past couple weeks since the new moon. If you made a mantra on the new moon, you made yourself a little promise using that mantra. Do you want to stick with that mantra? Is it working for you? Do you need to make it a little more challenging? Maybe you're doing the sauna 3 times a week, but you want to add legs up the wall in that sauna. Or maybe you want to make it easier. Maybe it's just like a hot shower, cold shower once a month that you need to do. So either using your same mantra or changing that mantra based on your need. And start to match a mantra, a vision statement with each and every one of those breaths. Now that we found the rhythm into the front body and then the rhythm into the back body, with our next breath, we're going to use Uddiyana Bandha to breathe into the back body. Then we're going to allow the breath to spill into the front body, and we're going to allow the breath to lift that stick. And then when we exhale, we're going to pull our belly away from that stick. We're going to squeeze the lower body like a sponge. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Push out every last bit of stale air. And then fill from the back body first. And then let that breath come around to the side body. Breathe into your love handle, your hips, into your pelvic floor. And then let that breath work around to the front body. Feel the abdomen lifting up the stick. And then we empty from the front body. The stick starts to drop. We go to the side body. We squeeze our hips. We squeeze our side body. Love handles like a accordion squeezing in. And then we squeeze our low back. Like we're trying to lift it up and squeeze that sponge of the lower body. Now that you've found sort of the rhythm and the depth of the breath, let's slow it down and smooth it out. That you're breathing so slowly, so smoothly, that you barely feel the breath moving in the nostrils. Like a very, very calm day at the beach. But you sure feel the breath moving inside that lower part of your body. Let's take 10 more breaths just like that. Planting a seed of intention using mantra with each and every one of those breaths. Using your breath to water that seed of intention. And then fertilizing that seed through the practice of visualization. It's like you're watching yourself in a movie of your life. And that intention, that seed you're planting, is like the lead action in that movie of your life. It's the center plot. And so if it's saunaing or hot cold therapy that you're integrating, you see yourself, whatever you've made the promise to yourself, once a week, once a month, full moon, new moon, whatever you've committed to, you see yourself doing that as you continue to mantra and breathe. those 10 breaths are complete, you're gonna place your stick beside you. You're gonna heel, toe, your foot back in. Knees are gonna be together, feet are gonna be together. We're gonna keep our feet firm on the floor, and we're gonna open and close our knees. So the trick with this one, we call this one the creeper pose. With this one, the soles of the feet are on the floor. And so keeping the soles of the feet flat on the floor, we open and close our knees. And then you're gonna open your knees as wide as you can, lift up your pelvis, give a little wiggle like it's a hammock, let it sway. And then bring your pelvis back down on the floor, press hard into your feet. See if you can open your knees a little wider without your feet lifting. So from big toe down to inner heel, those feet are firm on the floor. We're then gonna take all 10 of our fingers and we're gonna gently squeeze our shoulders. Lift those elbows up so that they're shoulders height. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then we're gonna start with nice big, slow circles with those elbows. I could have moved that box. I didn't realize until.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure if something was on it or not.
Let's just fix the light. Change direction with those circles. Here's a great place to really work that grip. So you can get a little tiny fold in every single one of those fingers. One day those elbows are going to touch in front of the chest. This is my absolute favorite neck release. This is 100% my go-to. And then stopping with those circles, we're going to open and close our elbows at that shoulder's height. And then elbows out to the side. We're going to go up and down like a jumping jack as we continue to squeeze those shoulders. And stopping with the jumping jacks, we're going to reach those arm bones up towards the sky like a zombie, wrist, elbows, shoulders stacked. We're going to take our right hand, like a hitchhiker, the thumb's going to point up. We're going to take that right hand into the left armpit. The index fingers are going to come right in close to the armpit, the thumb around front. The left hand is going to go through the triangle of the right hand, and we're going to find that same hand. So we've really got our hands up in our armpits, and then let those arms fall down on the chest. So to breathe into the ribs and the chest, we want to find a really strong Samana Vayu, Uddiyana Bandha. So think of a stick or a great big bowling ball on your belly and pull your belly away from that bowling ball and try and slide that bowling ball up so it's going to touch your back bottom ribs, or front ribs I should say. Good. Let your shoulders relax. Now without breathing to the belly, try and breathe into your hands. So when you inhale, the arms are going to lift and expand, and as you exhale, the arms are going to sink, shrink, contract. We're going to take it deeper into the hips, but if at any point it feels like too much of a hip stretch, you can come back to this position or the previous position, snow plow with the knees touching. So to move from a creeper to a cobbler, we keep our feet just as strong, just as active, but the soles of the feet are going to clap and the knees are going to come apart. Just as we learned to press our feet into the floor before, we're going to press our feet into our feet so that one foot pushes into the other foot. We still pull our belly away from that bowling ball, and we breathe big, beautiful breaths into our ribs, our chest, our armpits, our collarbones, our shoulders. And just as we found that breath moving before in our bellies, by resisting the breath into the belly, we're going to encourage the breath to move into the front rib cage, the side rib cage, the throat. Feeling that gentle breeze of breath on the inside of your nostrils. Expanding your nostrils away from that gentle breeze of breath. And then use your mind to slow down and smooth out the breath, making it as calm as the wind on a day at the beach, a perfect day at the beach. And the only really way you can feel the breath is through the movement in your chest. And then once you find the rhythm of the breath, use that breath to water seeds of intention, stating your mantra with each and every one of those breaths. And then maybe choosing to fertilize that intention using visualization. See yourself living out your life with that intention, a very present part of your day-to-day. Let's take 5 more breaths here. Breath, mantra, visualization. Once 5 breaths are complete, you can choose to keep your hips exactly like they are. You can bring your knees together and take your feet wide to give those hips a break. Or any other position you like. We're going to swap up our arms. We're going to inhale to reach our fingers up towards the sky. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Then the left hand is going to come into our right armpit. Our right hand is going to go through the triangle of the left hand and into our left armpit. We're then going to let the arms fall down heavy on the chest, the shoulders relax. So we got really good at breathing into the front rib cage there. So now we're going to see if we can breathe into the back and the side rib cage, okay? So I like to visualize my rib cage, my shoulders as a sponge. And I'm going to use my muscles, my intercostal muscles, to squeeze the front of my spongy torso. And so when I breathe, that's kind of contracting underneath my arms. And then I'm going to encourage the breath to move into my back ribs, my side ribs, my shoulder, and my neck. And so when you inhale, you feel that whole back body expanding, moving the breath into the back by gently contracting the front body. And then when you exhale, you use those same muscles but on the back body, those intercostal and spine muscles, to just kind of squeeze and contract a little bit, like you're squeezing out a sponge. Now that you've found the rhythm into the back body, you're going to take a great big exhale to empty. You're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then you're going to breathe into the back ribs. Then you're going to let the breath spill into the side ribs. Then you're going to allow that breath to fill into the front ribs. You're going to feel the elbows, the hands kind of lifting, expanding, broadening. And then you're going to empty first the front body where your arms are. Then you're going to empty your side body like accordions. You're going to use your imagination to squeeze the side ribs in, and then you're going to squeeze the back body to empty there. And flat on your back is nice if the bolster becomes too much too. Yeah. When you think you're full, take another little sip of air, and when you think you're empty, squeeze, push a little bit more out. And then once you find the depth of the breath, see if you can slow it down, smooth it out without agitation. Your lungs are very, very precious, and so we shouldn't be making them feel forced or agitated in any way. When we first start to work with breathing practices, sometimes it can be a little agitating to our minds as well. If that creeps in, you simply just take a break from the practice, and then you return with less effort. Let's take 10 more breaths here, using each one of those breaths to water a seed of intention, planting your intention using mantra, and then fertilizing that intention through the practice of visualization. Breath, mantra, visualization. When those 10 breaths are complete, once again, reach those arms up towards the sky, and then let those arms fall down heavy onto the floor. Push into your elbows, push into your shoulders, kind of lift the skin of your armpits, fire up your legs, bring those knees up. Pressing into those feet, you can lift up your pelvis, give a little wiggle. Again, if you've had enough of the bolster, just roll off to the side. Otherwise, bringing your pelvis down, straightening one leg, straightening the other leg. Let both legs kind of relax out to the side. Go into the trapezius muscles, which are those big sort of kite-shaped muscles from the back of the neck to the shoulder and back down to the spine. Imagine you could melt and slide those muscles down your back. Take a great big exhale, squeezing your entire torso, pushing out every last little bit of stale air. And then first you're gonna breathe into your back body, then you're gonna breathe into your side body, then you're gonna breathe into your front body. You wanna go the whole body. So from the tailbone to the skull, and then the entire side ribs, from your hips to your armpits, and then the entire front chest. And it should be not feeling forced or agitating in any way. And then we're gonna empty from the front body to the side body, and then finally we're gonna empty the back body. Just gonna take 10 more breaths here in this position, the full 3-part yoga breath, up and down the spine. Breath, mantra, visualization. those 10 breaths are complete, we're gonna bend our knees, pick up our pelvises, rock them out, move our hips to the left, roll off to the right, push ourselves up, and move our props over to the side. I think it would be nice to have like a little pillow for your head, so have your blanket kind of at the back of the mat, and you wanna have your stick kind of handy. We're gonna do some knee and some ankle releases for our low back. We're gonna have our knees and our feet together, and we're gonna try and keep our feet on the floor. And so you wanna have lots of room behind you. So if it's very hard for you to keep your feet on the floor in this core routine, we do this core routine all the time, then it's really gonna be easier to take your feet a hip's distance apart and dig them in a flexed position. We did that all winter long, right? So if we're ready and we're nailing that, then we bring our feet together, our knees together. Hands come behind the thighs, we keep the knees level, we're gonna make a C with our spine, right? I'm gonna lift my arms up, and I'm gonna kind of lean into my back rib cage, and I'm gonna slide my hands down my hamstrings as slow as I can, keeping those knees together, keeping those knees level without my feet lifting. Once I've arrived all the way down, I'm gonna walk my feet in, I'm gonna lift my knees, placing the stick into the backs of the knees, so both knees are over the stick. And then I'm going to have my hands on my kneecaps, and I'm just going to pull my knees to me and away from me, just loosening up my low back. And this is where it might be nice to have that little pillow under your head. If it feels like your chin is lifting and you're getting wrinkles in the back of the neck, just fold that blanket over one more time to give yourself some more height. And then squeezing the knees and the ankles, you're going to go side to side with that stick behind your knees. And then let that side to side kind of turn into circles. And then changing direction with the circles. Stopping with those circles, you're going to take your left leg off the stick and bring it onto the floor so the stick is just behind the back of the right knee. You can either go under the stick, which is going to be deeper into the back of the knee, or you can have your wrists over the stick, which is going to be more mellow, and you're going to interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left. Before you bring your hands over or under your leg, I want you to push your fingertips, all 10 of your fingertips, into the backs of the hands. So the thumb pushes into the thumb, and then the other 8 fingers push into the back of the hand, and think about like a little mini bend in your knuckle, right? Just feel that sensation. That's a strong hand, and then let go of that, and just notice how you're not using any of the muscles in your hand, right? And then push into the fingertips. Notice how you're using your hands, and then relax that. Okay, and then you either go under the stick or over the stick to interlace, you pull it in, and then you see if you can find the muscles of the hands. Relax your shoulders. If you want to go deeper into the groins, you're going to start to straighten that left leg, but you're not going to let that left leg externally rotate. You're going to keep the heel centered and the toes pointing up towards the sky as you draw that right leg in. And then we're going to point and flex that right foot. So the interesting thing about hands and feet, right, is when's the last time, obviously, if you're hanging out with me, you've probably done it quite often, but when's the last time you strengthened your feet in regular life, right? When's the last time you put any energy into being really good at using your hands, right? Strong hands. Point your toe, and then nice big slow circles. And then if you think about anything in your life that you're really good at, and just think about how much energy, how much time, how much effort you put into that, right? And it doesn't have to be equal, but a little bit of energy and effort into strengthening our hands and our feet. I'm telling you, I've taught a lot of older people, you are never going to regret it. Let's change direction with the circles. And so feeling every single one of those fingertips, pushing every single one of those fingertips into either the back of the hand or the tip of the thumb, keeping those hands and those wrists nice and active. And then stop. stopping with those circles, we're gonna flex the foot, sole of the foot's flat. So the big toe mound and the baby toe mound are level. And then keeping the big toe mound and the baby toe mound level, we're just gonna curl the toes, ankle doesn't move. And then we're gonna point the foot without the toes changing, and then we're gonna flip the toes without the ankle moving. We're gonna flex, we're gonna curl, we're gonna point, we're gonna flip. One more round, flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. See if you can hold that Barbie foot. That's a really great place to start to strengthen your foot. Give me 5 big breaths into that right hip. And noticing that left heel, are you on the outside of the heel? Can you be right on the center so your toes and your knee point straight up to the sky? We're then going to release our hands. We're going to put our hands on our hips. Now, if it's challenging to hold your knee where it is, you're going to bend your left knee and place the sole of the left foot on the floor. Keeping your stick level with the top of the mat, you're going to draw circles with your right knee. Your number 1 objective here is to keep your pelvis still. Right? If we can learn to move our leg bone independently from our hips and our hips independently from our low backs, our bodies are going to be incredibly grateful. Let's change direction with the knee circles. And then stopping with the circles, go back and forth like a windshield wiper, keeping the pelvis level on the floor. Knee goes in, knee goes out. And then stopping with that knee centered. Take all 4 of your fingers, but not your thumb, and hook your fingers over the stick. Bend your left knee, sole of the left foot on the floor. Thumbs are going to touch the top of the stick, fingers are going to hook the sticks. Okay, we want to strengthen those fingers. Then we're going to take that right leg away from us until our arms are straight. And then we're going to straighten and bend that right leg without the stick or the quad moving. It's not about straightening the leg, it's about the knee, the quad, and the stick not moving. We're going to point as we lift, we're going to flex as we lower. If this is 10 out of 10 easy, and you can straighten your leg completely without the quad or the knee moving, then you can start to straighten your left leg. But if you're not yet able to straighten your right leg, there's really no need to straighten your left. Number 1 most important thing is that the knee doesn't move. So if you can, we're going to hook this way. Oh, yeah, there you go. Right, so then the leg is pushing on that stick and the fingers are pulling back. Yeah, and then we're strengthening all those fingers. Flex to lower, point to lift, and then we get that nice nerve flossing happening. And then straighten to hold. So again, listening to your body. Those of us that can keep a neutral pelvis do. Arms are straight, thumbs are on the top of the stick, fingers are hooking, right? If you can keep that right leg straight and a neutral pelvis, you can straighten the left leg, but really be honest with yourself. It's in your best interest to keep that right leg straight. If it's bent, it's no problem, but then you don't straighten the left leg. And then we're going to slide that right leg over to the left side. So you just take it on the stick and you slide it to the left. You're going to pull with your fingers and push with your thumb. Press into both feet. Then imagine you could sit that right butt into a chair. So if you can. So your thumb here, right? So see how this isn't doing much? So I want you to push your leg. Yeah, there you go. So we want to strengthen that, right? So thumb's here. It's like I'm doing this. There you go. You feel that difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to have strong fingers, we want to have strong feet in all of our poses. Yeah, so thumbs just here, like you're riding a bike. Does that make sense? You push with your thumbs, you pull with your fingers, your leg is pushing into the stick, and the hands are pulling on the stick. So your muscles in your arms are engaged, muscles in your hands are engaged, muscles in your feet are engaged. Make sense? Muscle in your legs engaged. Good. 5 more breaths. breaths here. And then take that right leg so it's over your right hip. Release the stick and see if you can hold the leg there. If you can't, bend the left knee. If you still can't, bend the right knee. Press into both feet. Now reach your fingers up towards the sky. Bring all 10 fingertips to touch. Push hard into the fingertips and see if you can get a little mini fold in each one of your knuckles. Lift those fingers up. Press into those feet. Good. Now if it's very easy, float your left foot. Look for symmetry in those knuckles. This is your business, so fade over the shoulders. There we go. Think of it as like a spider hand. I want you to do them together, but I'm sure, yeah. Right, so again, because you're very flexible, right, so you like to white knuckle and hyperextend in those knuckles, so we want to just like a little bend in them. Yeah, and then you push hard into them. There you go. And you float them up like your hands have balloons in them. 3 more breaths. And then those 3 breaths are complete. Bend your left knee, bend your right knee. Soles of the feet on the floor. Place your hands on your ribs, your elbows on the floor. And we're just going to windshield wiper our legs left and right. Do your absolute best to keep your rib cage, your elbows, and your shoulders still, right? Because remember, our goal is to be able to move different parts of the body individually. And then arrive with your knees pointing up towards the sky. We're going to take our stick behind the back of the left knee. We're going to fold that knee over the stick. Then we're going to interlace our fingers, left hand on top of right. So if you don't know what I mean, just look at your fingers, thumbs are touching, and put all your left fingers on top, all your right fingers on top. So you're swapping that grip. When we do the right side of the body, every single one of the right fingers is on top of the left. When we do the left side of the body, all of the left fingers are on top of the right. You can go over the stick or under the stick. It's a lot deeper under the stick. Relax your shoulders, no wrinkles in your neck, and then slide that right heel away from you. So last time I noticed that a lot of us, our knee went out to, in this case it would be the left, and our ankle into the right, which is an external rotation of the hip, which isn't terrible, but it's certainly not going in the direction that is going to be the best for our backs and our hips. So see if you can go into neutral rotation where your left ankle, your left knee, and your left hip bone are directly in a straight line. And then we're going to point and flex that left foot. Again, remembering that our awareness is going to be very strong in our fingers, right? So those same hands when our fingertips were touching, it's like our fingertips are pushing into something, whether it's the back of the hand or the tip of the thumb, and it's almost like we have like a little mini bend in our knuckles. You're very welcome. So super, super strong hands. Point your foot, draw nice big, slow circles with your foot. How's the temperature in here?
It's warm.
It's warm, it's okay though, it's not too warm, too cold. If I need to open a window, just let me know.
It's actually perfect in the summer.
Yeah, there you go. Rob's found his spot. Change direction with the circles. Pay attention to that right heel. The habit of external rotation is super strong in this room, so you'll feel you're on that outer heel. So you have to go to the thigh bone and you think of an internal rotation to stay on the center of the heel. You got it. And then find your big toe mounds as far away from your knees as your baby toe mounds. Stop with your circles. We're going to flex that left foot. We're then going to curl just the toes. We're going to point the foot. We're going to flip just the toes. Good. Flex, curl, point, flip, flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. And just stay there with that Barbie foot. Take some nice big, big breaths into that hip. Releasing your hands, bringing your hands onto your pelvis. If it's hard to keep the knee there, you can bend your right knee and place the sole of the right foot on the floor. Your priority is to not move your pelvis or your hips or your back as we make circles with the left knee. So I find if my hands are on my pelvis, I'm way more aware of if I'm moving it or not. And those of us that understand a neutral pelvis, keeping that neutral pelvis. Changing direction with the circles, both feet staying nice and active. And trying to keep your stick level with the top of the mat, especially if you know that external rotation is very dominant. And then windshield wiper, knee going left, knee going right without the pelvis moving, keeping the stick level with the wall behind you. And then stop with the knee pointing right up towards the sky. Bend your right knee, place the sole of the right foot on the floor. So your 4 fingers come over the stick and they are like 4 hooks, and then you pull with those hooks. Now your thumbs push into the top of the stick. It's similar to riding a bike. It feels a bit like that, but your palm is not on the stick. I want us to really work on strengthening those hands. Then push that knee away from you until your arms are totally straight. And then you're going to do what we call a shin lift, which means the quad, the knee doesn't move, the stick doesn't move, and you lift your shin up and down. Neutral pelvis if you can. You're going to flex the foot as you lower, you're going to point the foot as you lift, and then that adds a nice nerve flossing element to this. Now if this is super easy, feel free to straighten out that right leg, but not if you can't straighten out the left leg. You want to keep that ability to straighten the knee versus. And just really noticing if one side is very different than the other. And then straightening that left leg to hold as straight as you can, flex it. So again, if you can't straighten that left leg, bend that right leg. If you can, feel free to straighten the right or straighten it a bit. Now push your quad, the front of your leg, into your stick. Use your arms and your fingers to pull back on that stick. Hands are super strong. Thumbs are pushing, fingers are pulling. A little mini bend in all those knuckles. And then slide that left leg along the stick towards the right thumb. Get that nice IT band stretch. Now pull on the stick and push with the leg. So the magic here is the resistance. Where that quad is pushing hard into that stick, it's like your heel is pushing into another stick, but your hands are pulling back onto the stick. And that's where we get that magical release. Big, beautiful breaths. Five more big belly breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, we're going to take that left leg so that it's right over that left hip. Again, listen to your body, bend your knees if you feel your back at all. You're going to remove your stick, place it beside you, hold your leg where it is. Float your arm bones up, Bring all of the fingertips to touch, palms are apart. Put a little mini bend in each one of those knuckles, like they're a net, and lift those hands up like they're a net over a balloon. Look at your knuckles and see if you can find that they're symmetrical and that they're folding from crease to cap versus the other way. See if you can get a little fold in your pinky knuckles. If it's easy peasy, really squeeze the outer hips and float that right heel. Push your back floating ribs into the floor. And let's see if you've got 10 breaths for me here. So we had this split on the other side, but not this side. Did you notice that? Yeah, so the trick with that, right, when there's an imbalance, is you want to resist going as deep as you did on one side until this side catches up. Have I explained that okay?
So don't put my leg down.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's more important to do the two sides the same.
Okay, because I couldn't put my leg straight.
I know, but that's such good information, right? Because to be able to do almost a split on one side and not on the other is very different, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, it's very good info. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, float those arms down, hands on your ribs, elbows on the floor, pull in your belly, and then you're just gonna go back and forth with those knees, just that nice windshield wiper back release. Big, beautiful breaths. Close your eyes, I'm gonna hit the light. Maddie's desperate, she's over there by the door looking for the cold breeze. And then let your legs come to the right, roll off to that right side so that your shoulders, your hips, and your knees are stacked, and then push yourself up. We're gonna take our blanket and we're gonna unfold it just once so that it's nice and big, and then iron out the bumps. And then you're gonna take your two blocks and you're gonna stack them at the back of your mat. And I'm gonna show you this from a couple different angles. This is what I'm looking for here, okay? So I don't want my feet pointed and my ankles down. I don't want my toes super close. I want halfway between. So all 10 of my toes are down, but my ankles are lifted. We're gonna release it after a while, but it's hard because it's a strength that's, not there. So point your feet around these blocks, nice and slow, sit back. If you feel your knees, let me know, I'm gonna give you more support. My leg bones are totally straight. So they're not like this, because that would be stretching my inner knee. And then I'm gonna lift my ankles. So you can see I push into my toes to lift my ankles so I can do this. This strength is why I can do deep back bends at this age and not hurt my back. It's like a huge part of it, right? But it's not like all up on my toes, right? So it's not down, it's not on my toes, it's just right. Now, if you can keep the ankles and you're a sucker for punishment, you can go down, but it's gonna be a lot harder to keep the ankles. You could do a half down by flipping your blocks. But I really want you to prioritize strength today, right? It's the full moon of the lion, and lions are very strong. Strong ankles are very good, all right? So we need to have a lift in both ankles. We're then gonna take our stick into our elbows, and we're gonna lift our elbows so they're as high as our shoulders. I'm gonna start by taking our hands wide so that they're right over our elbows. And then feeling our sit bones on those blocks, we're gonna go back and forth. Just keep going back and forth, back of the sit bones, middle of the sit bones, front of the sit bones. And then feel the center of the sit bones and stay. Really pull in your belly, keep your elbows as high as your shoulders, bring all 10 fingertips to touch, find that little mini bend in your knuckles, and just clap your thumbs. Just your thumbs clapping. So elbows over shoulders. So not out here, we want those elbows right over those shoulders. Yeah, there you go. Elbows as wide as the shoulders. Then you've got a ball in your elbows and you're squeezing it. We want to lift them up as high as our shoulders. If we fatigue, we can go down, but see if you can keep those elbows up so that it's almost going to roll to your neck. Then thumbs together, clap just your index fingers. Keep the shape. Watch your neck. Look with your eyes, not your neck. There you go. Again, keeping the shape of all the other fingers, that nice perfect fold. Noticing If you've got a finger that we can't fold, yeah, just try though. Noticing, right? See if you can get it to get a little crease. And then middle fingers. If you feel your knees, you come through tabletop position, you open them up. So you see how the leg bones are pointing out just a tiny bit. If you bring them in just a little bit, yeah, nice. And then just your ring fingers clap. Can you keep the pinky slightly folded while we clap those fingers? This is where we start to notice it can get more challenging, right? I've never met an 85-year-old that can clap their ring finger unless they're a musician, and I never met an 85-year-old that after 2 yoga classes couldn't. Use it or lose it. And then tap just the pinkies. Pull your belly towards your back, like you got a bowling ball there. Someone above you. Stay right on the center of the sit bones. Then all the fingers press. Good. Are your elbows still in line with your shoulders or have they gone broader? Right? We want those elbows as narrow as the shoulders. I know, it's tough muscles. Those are your external rotators, right? So we're not letting those elbows go wider than the shoulders. Keep the hands, just take your wrists apart and just see where they get to without losing the wrists. Right, and then see if you can bring your hands back together without losing the wrists, right? So think of rotating inside the shoulder. See if you can take your hands apart without the wrists changing. See if you can bring your hands together. Don't change those wrists, Sally. This is gonna untighten your shoulders. So we open the hands, we close the hands. I think of toffee between my fingers. You know, toffee, like sticky toffee, pulling my fingers together, and that helps me go deeper. So if I think of something pulling me together, then it actually lets me go deeper. That's resistance strength training. The only machine it requires is your broomstick. Good, now take it wide and just hold. This is your medicine. Keep breathing. Now think, I'm gonna squeeze, squeeze, squeeze a ball, see if I can go a little bit further. Ball in my hands, I'm gonna squeeze, 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 see if I can go further. Keeping the 90-degree angle bend is gonna help functional movement as well. And then bring those fingertips back to touch. Good. Exhale to bring the elbows to the ribs. Slide it down to your wrists. And just hold there. Lift the shoulders, take the shoulders back. Try to have it right on your wrist. Can you control your wrists? Keeping that stick level. Change direction. Mind-body connection is when we can put our mind into every part of our body at the same time, so every part of our body does its job. And none of our body has to work harder than any other part, and then our body feels great. Good, then shoulders back, nice. Take that stick, just place it beside you, nice and close to grab. Relax your ankles, let your palms face up, close your eyes, take a few breaths. If you're feeling like you need to stretch out your ankles or your knees, do so. We're gonna take 5 breaths here, so feel free to release your ankles and your knees if you're not used to sitting. Whew. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, we're gonna return back onto our ankles. If you're new to the ankle work, you don't have to lift the ankles again, but if you're not new to the ankle work, try lifting the ankles. I find if I lift the skin of my knees, I can sit longer. Right? I just get that, like you just gotta kind of like slide, the fascia kind of slides. Then we're gonna bring our hands up. They're gonna be a shoulder's distance apart, right? We're gonna have the stick in the palms of our hands, and our thumb is going to be on the same side of the stick as the index finger. So the thumb hugs the index finger. Now make sure, go a little bit wider with your hands there for me, Jill. Make sure your pinky wrist is as wide as your shoulder. Now imprint and arch your pelvis, and then stay on the center of your sit bones. Imagine you could push your rib cage back. Now take your arm bones all the way out, take your arm bones all the way in. Arm bones all the way out, Arm bones all the way in. And this, again, great information for getting rid of neck pain, particularly if you like drive or work at a desk for a living. Odds are we have our arm bones all the way out, our arm bones all the way in if we're feeling our neck. Sometimes try this, right arm bone in, left arm bone out without twisting, right? Notice the wrinkles on your wrists, and then left arm bone out, right arm bone in without twisting, right? Because we often work like this, right? A lot of people work right arm bone back. That's the most common, right? And then back level, and then left arm bone in, right arm bone out. One feels way easier than the other because that's probably what we do all day, every day. Watch the hyperextending elbows, bend the elbows like you do your knuckles. And then both elbows, wrists, arms level, beautiful. And just do this, right? Keeping the palms and the fingers from moving. There's no movement of the stick in your hands. Remember our obsession this year? Our overall year intention is strong grip. No change in the wrinkles of the wrists. We're not flexing, getting wrinkles in the front. Wrinkle-free wrists. Good. And then stop level, and we're going to externally and internally rotate our arm bones. Again, trying not to move our hands. We're having it up to shoulders height if we can. There's an external rotation, internal rotation, external, internal. And we notice if we're tight or loose. And then we want somewhere in the middle. So we're not internally rotated, we're not externally rotated, but we're somewhere in the middle. Then find a little mini micro bend in your elbows. Exhale to bring the stick down. As you come up, push your back rib cage back. Don't let your ribs do this, right? Push your back rib cage up. Elbows don't change, right? So keep those same elbows, right? I can just let my elbows do whatever the heck they want. My hands can do whatever they want, but I'm always going to be in pain, right? So if I keep my elbows stable and my hands stable, right, then they're learning to carry the weight of the arms without the neck and the shoulders always having to carry the weight. Has anyone ever gone backpacking? And you know, my dad always takes newbies backpacking and he ends up packing like 120 pounds or whatever, and then the newbies have 20 pounds. That's what you're doing to your shoulders, right? The wrist should have 50 pounds, the elbows should have 50 pounds, and the shoulders should have 50 pounds, and then the neck is stoked. Arm straight is more important than coming up. No change in your back. And then bring those arm bones up, just wherever you can. Right, you could be here, you could be here, you could rest. Rome wasn't built in a day. And then we're gonna go shoulders eating neck, shoulders not eating neck. Shoulders eating neck, shoulders not eating neck. One more time, shoulders eating neck, shoulders not eating neck. That's another trick. You're sitting at your desk, you start to feel your neck, are your shoulders eating your neck? Exhale to bring your stick down so it touches your head. Try and have it level, pull your elbows apart. Inhale to straighten, exhale to bend without rotating your elbows, right? So it's not going back to this habit and the hands moving just cause. Control your hands. Your hands do not need to move. Keep the hands and fingers totally still. Make them pack their own weight. Does anyone know the name of this series? Anybody? It's okay, Terry. Pop the quiz. It's called Joint Stability Series. It's one of my favorite for getting rid of neck and shoulder pain. And then let that arrive. Pull those elbows apart. Squeeze your stick. Hands still haven't moved, right? Now grow taller. Lift your head up, right? Grow your spine taller. Push your butt into that block and lift your head off that block without your shoulders hitting your neck. Like your head is helium, lift your stick. Like there's fish hooks in your ears, lift your ears. Right? We get older as we get shorter as we age unless we choose not to. Right? It's an absolute choice. Pull those elbows apart, grow taller. 5 more breaths here. Find those waves of breath up and down the spine, just like we found when we were laying on our backs. Plant a seed of intention with each and every one of those breaths. And visualize yourself as a 90-year-old human walking around like you're at this nice posture. Visualize. It's a lot easier to do the work when you can see the end game. Nobody won the Olympics by thinking they couldn't do it. And inhale to bring that stick up. Beautiful. Exhale to bring that stick down. Place the stick beside you. Relax your ankles, palms up, shoulders relaxed. Take a few big breaths. Remember when we had our hands there? Think about that. Breathe into your back, your armpits, your shoulders, your sternum. Stretch out our knees and our ankles. So coming forward, put your sort of block to the side. Have your wrists ahead of your shoulders. Index finger is down. Base of the index finger is down. Index finger points forward. Push into all of your fingertips. And then pull your fingertips towards your palms and try and bend your knuckles. Just a tiny bit. Even if you just use your imagination to start with. Good. Bang out those shoulder push-ups in and out. And then find just right. Internally and externally rotate those arm bones. Find the V, right? Then straighten your right leg, keeping your arms, keeping your neck, keeping your shoulders. And then push into your right heel, keeping your spine, your neck, your shoulders, your elbows. So if I can do that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and index fingers forward. Right, so that's gotta be down. Yeah. And then come forward with that heel, stretch out the toes. Again, trying to keep those elbow creases. Keep those hands, and then back into the heel. And here you don't feel your wrists. Yeah, and again, so when we start to do more and more and more, you just go to where you don't feel them.
So much better than last time.
Yeah, and you'll get better and better and better, I promise. And just forward and back a couple more times. We should never feel our wrists in yoga. You see this deep line? Yeah. Okay. And you could have your hands like even here. Yeah. And then opposite leg. Really lift up the back of the skull. Keep that neck nice and long, right? So if we want to prepare ourselves for nice strong necks, we've got to start here. The helium balloon in the back of the skull. Lift it up. Get that nice Achilles stretch. And then bring it forward into the toes. Neutral neck the whole time. Lift your ribs, lift your belly. Strong hands, strong elbows, strong shoulders. Back into the heel. And then one more time, forward into the toes. So the number one priority is keeping the hands. And if you have any neck and shoulder stuff, just sticking with a puppy. With tucked toes, you take your seat towards your feet and you keep the hands. You keep the elbows, you keep the shoulders. It's like a snake bite. It's an external rotation of the upper arm and an internal rotation of the lower arm to keep the elbows. If you can keep the elbows, the shoulders, and the hands, you take it into a down dog. If you can't, then you train your puppy. This is a puppy. This is a very difficult pose if you're doing it correctly. And it is so worth training your puppy, right? Look at Maddie, right? If she wasn't well trained, we couldn't take her anywhere. I know she's not perfect, but she's getting there. And then there's Chandra. Practically perfect in every way. You've done a lot of yoga, hey, breathe. Decent amount? Yeah, you're very easy to teach. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Feel free to take a break if you need to. And then drop down onto your knees, point your feet, hands underneath forehead or block, whatever you need, elbows nice and wide. Let's just take a few breaths here. With each inhale, your whole body's gonna expand. With each exhale, your whole body's gonna contract. Give me 5 more breaths here. Using those breaths to water seeds of intention by saying mantra with each and every breath. And then visualize. Practically perfect. But still a little bit of room to grow. Like all of us, right? All right, when you're ready, hands under shoulders, push yourself up. We're gonna look at this in a pincher prep, or also known as a dolphin pose. So the knees are gonna be right underneath the hips, right? Your stick's gonna be in your hands. I really like thumbs on the same side as the index finger, but if you feel that in your wrist, you're not ready for it, thumb can be on its own side. What's important to me here is that my elbows are right underneath my shoulders and my wrists are with my elbows. If I start to do this, my neck is gonna get jammy, so I wanna stop, okay? Rest when you need to. So with those elbows right underneath those shoulders, we're gonna lift our belly, we're gonna lift our ribs up. We're gonna look down between our hands, keeping a nice neutral neck. Now push into the backs of the hands, squeeze your stick, lift your elbows the teeniest, tiniest amount you can, but lift them without your shoulders changing. So you're still pulling those arm bones just right. Watch your neck, Giselle. Yep, so tuck your chin so your neck is neutral. We don't want any wrinkles in the back of the neck. Then see if you can move your shoulders a little forward over those elbows. Anytime you need to rest, you bring your elbows back down to the floor.
Just don't know what you do.
Just lift your elbows a little bit. So, yeah, there you go, watch your neck. And then you're gonna go up and down with your elbows. Or not, right? Just elbows down is enough, and just have your elbows down. And then elbows down. Neutral neck, squeeze your stick, push your wrist and your elbows down, get your shoulders right over your elbows, find your back just right. So it's not arm bones in, it's not arm bones all the way out, it's just right. Lift your belly like there's a bowling ball there, lift your knees a teeny tiny little bit. Keep those shoulders right over those elbows. And just float those kneecaps. Rest when you need to, but not when you don't. Neutral neck, Terry. Wrinkles in the back, tuck the chin. There you go. And then see if you can go up and down with your knees a few times. And then if you need to rest, rest. If you don't need to rest, you straighten your legs. If you don't need to rest, you walk your feet in. If you need to rest, you rest. And then you join in when you're done. If you don't need to rest, you just hold the pose. And so child's pose is a really nice rest. If you need it, if you don't need it, right into the pose. When we straighten the legs, you want to do so really slowly by sliding the hamstrings up, sliding the calves down. There's generally a little mini bend in the knees. And then if you can straighten the legs, then you walk your feet towards your elbows, you lift your heels, you lift your sit bones, you let your neck hang, you hold it as long as you like, and then you walk it back, and you take your child's pose. Any child's pose you fancy, as long as you don't feel your knees. Let your head go, Rob. Let your head go. Think of your head as like a bowling ball and let it hang. So you know how you can go to those back, what is it called, back fit, and they'll hang you upside down, and you pay a lot of money for them to traction your back. This is you doing it for yourself. So at back fit, you're not looking forward, right? You're doing this, so you're tractioning your back. You're looking forward if you want to take your feet off the ground, but nobody's going to do that today. And then eventually you do it without even looking forward. We're going to do one more round. So rest as long as you need to, and then one more set. Just the legs up. If you're not doing legs up, you could do elbows up, elbows down. Any of those three postures. your shoulders into my stick. Forward, yeah, bring it in right there. So try and keep those shoulders back. And this is your crow, right? Crow it, crow it, crow it. Lift your booty. Now let your head hang, Kathy. Let your neck go. Let it traction. There you go. Just let it go. And then when that's done, one last child's pose. Right, back to your breath. With each inhale, whole body expanding. With each exhale, whole body contracting. We'll just go 5 more breaths here. Neck, 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 neck. Yep, you feel the difference?
Yeah, I like this exercise.
So that's your spine, that's where your neck should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're so bendy in the neck. It's like think of it as wet spaghetti, and you want it to be rigid spaghetti. Like al dente, barely cooked. Make sense?
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, you can either roll over into a squat, if that's appropriate for you. And if you're doing a crow and you're not used to doing a crow, you can always put a bolster in front of you, right? But you want to have your feet wide enough to bring your hands into namaskara. If rolling over into a squat isn't available, you take your feet out to one side, hands out to the other to sweep your legs through. You can squat like this, you can squat on a bolster, whatever you fancy. Again, this is a nice option. Whatever works for you. But eventually to get our crows, right, the next thing we want to look at is that we can bring those arm bones forward. I always like take my knee out so I can lengthen one side from hip to armpit, lengthen the other side from hip to armpit, find a nice straight-ish back. I'm going to bring my arm really firm into my shin on both sides, and then I'm going to bring my hands into namaskara. If I have headaches or neck stuff, I don't do it, right? Because what will happen is, until my hands and my elbows and my shoulders are strong, my neck's going to do all the lifting, I'm going to get a headache tomorrow, right? So I just stay here and I try and find the muscles, and I try not to overuse my traps. I try and find a neutral neck if that's the case. If I have no neck, wrist stuff at all, I can start to play with it. I can bring my hands down. I find those same magic hands, the shoulders distance apart. I come up onto my toes. I try and get my elbows right over my wrists. And I can start by doing one foot at a time. I try and get my shoulders and my hips level, and then eventually I can do both feet. But the hands have to be really trained. Otherwise you pinch your nerve in your outer wrist. If you've never done it before and you're starting to play with it, that's a nice option. And you just can play with it. You can also play with just lifting your heels here. This is a huge, big step towards doing a crow. But we're never allowed to feel our knees. We're never allowed to feel our wrists. And eventually, if you're coming up, the feet come together. Good. And then one hand behind you, other hand behind you. We're gonna come off. Straighten out those legs, shoulders back, a little point and flex. We're gonna finish with a boat. Since we have a blanket, it's a really nice cheat. So use it, it's so much nicer. Sit your little booty on a blanket, take your stick behind your knees, flip your palms up, shoulders back. Find this arm, right? We trained this arm, let's use it. So palms up, shoulders back, lift your chest, come just behind the sit bones, think about lifting into the backs of the knees. Knees together, feet together, and then it's just that shin lift. Heart center lifting. So you can keep the shoulders, just do so much to train them. Point your feet, flip your toes, zero rotation, elbows don't move, chest doesn't move. Use those fingers. You could even loosen your grip and train the fingers, right? No wrinkles in the wrist. You could use your thumbs like we did for that first pose, if we really wanted to work those wrists and hands, right? Like that. But keep your back. 3 more breaths. And then see if you can take the stick away and still hold. And bend, squeeze the feet back, knees apart. Come forward, so nice big square with our knees and our ankles and our hips. Let the shoulders hang, let the head hang. Go as deep as you want to go. Just gonna go 5 breaths here. And so that was external rotation of the shoulder. Let's see how we do with internal rotation. Nice big inhale to come up, draw those knees together. Knees and feet can be together or hips distance apart. Stick can be underneath the knees, internal rotation. You can find that same grip, right? If you can straighten your legs quite easily, you can take it over the feet. Either or. Heart center lifts. Right, so it's either behind the knees or over the feet. And then you just do that nice little shin lift. And if your legs are together, that's great, but if they're not together, make sure it's neutral rotation. Pull with your arms, lift your chest. And again, you can be here. You can pull those elbows apart if you like on this one. It's an internal rotation. Neck should be able to move. Pull those arms into your shoulders. We see this a lot, right? Can I move my neck? No, right? So that's not yoga if I can't say no. That's trying to be a gymnast. Pull those arms in, that's mind-body awareness. I can say no. That's yoga. 10 more breaths. Yay, boats. See if you can find a neutral neck here. See if you can memorize what that feels like in your body. When those 10 breaths are complete, can you lift the stick? Find those fingers, right? Dead fingers mean dead wrists, mean dead elbows, mean nothing is lifting those arms up. Balloons in your joints, bend, and hold. Good work, guys. And then up you come. We're gonna have a bolster for underneath our legs. We're gonna have a pillow for underneath our head. So again, you can flex your feet, it's easier, or you can put the soles of the feet down, it's harder. You make a C with your spine. You keep your knees level and your feet down, and you try and come down one disc, one vertebra at a time. Arrive and rest. Close your eyes. And if you feel like, you know what, that was a lot, I need one last leg hug, then give those legs a great big hug. Right? If you feel like you don't need to hug your legs, don't hug your legs. And library people can do a nidra. Be well.